Hello and welcome to Yerushalmi Berachos Daf Tzadi. Again, there's just so much agadata. I'm going to cover a couple of very quick aras. So actually, the Gemara is talking about Kiddush Levana. I want to mention that on Daf Pei Tes, the Gemara talks about Levana B'chidusha, meaning there's a Berachos Achama once every 28 years, and there's also another thing of the Levana B'chidusha. It's beyond the scope of this conversation, and quite frankly, I don't exactly understand when it is, but it is brought down the halacha that since it's so complicated, people don't do that Levana B'chidusha. But it's not referring to Kiddush Levana, which of course we do. So my first hour is going to be on Kiddush Levana, but there is a difference between the two. So I just wanted to say that the Gemara here says that you could do Kiddush Levana achet ismali pigimasa until the moon's deficiency is made whole, and then it seems to be the Rabbanan de Kisser number. They're explaining until 14 days. Okay, and then the other opinion is that it is not until 14 days have passed. Another one says what's it called? Whether the 14th day is included or not. The Bavli has a different thing. Now everybody agrees that that the new moon actually takes 29 and a half days, 44 minutes, and 3 1/3 seconds. But the Bavli actually says in Sanhedrin Daf Mem Aleph Amud Beis that you have until the 16th day, not 14 days. And the Yerushalmi says 14 and 15. The Torah and Arachai and Paskins like the Bavli and explains that the 16th day itself doesn't count. So it could be it's not really a discrepancy. It's really 15 days from when the new moon, which starts before the Rosh Chodesh, which is why we're always talking about kind of the 14 and a half days. So you could probably reconcile them, although it's way beyond my pay grade. And I haven't seen anybody exactly reconcile fully. But anyway, a couple of very quick aras. Haroa Keshes, I don't know if you see a rainbow. Baruch Atah Hashem. This the Gemara says before, Zocher Bris, which we'll get to. It's not the bracha that we make. So it says Hashem's name, which again, it's interesting because until now it's really left it out, and that needs to be explained. But anyway, so it's Machlokas here. One opinion says you say Baruch Atah Hashem Zocher Bris. The other opinion of Rav Chia B'Shem Rav Yochanan says you say Naaman Bebriso V'Zocher Bris, which I want to point out. It's a very interesting lashon. Naaman Bebriso means he's faithful. V'Zocher means he remembers. It's interesting because the actual girsa that we have in the Bavli, or at least the girsa that it says to do, is in Berachos 59b. Zocher HaBris, he remembers it. V'naaman Bebriso, he follows it. V'kaim Mamaro, and he keeps his word, which seems to be redundant. But anyway, that's how the Archaim, in Archaim it's Paskin that we say like the Bavli, but I just want to point out that there is a lot of redundancy there, and I can understand why the Yerushalmi, which is always Lashon Klila, is trying to be brief. Is Zochar Bris, period, or Rav Chia says, no. In the name of Rav Yochanan, the Bali Yerushalmi, Naaman Bebriso Zochar Bris. But it's interesting because the order of L'chora should have been you remember it, and also you fulfill it. But it could be that it's referring to a more global thing, that Hashem is Naaman Bebriso. He is faithful, and of course, Zochar Bris, he always remembers everything. But anyway, I also wanted to point out that it's brought down, the Chai Adam brings down, and the Gemara says also that a person shouldn't stare at a keshes, that a person shouldn't tell someone if they see a keshes because it's a bad sign. But I do want to say that it's very interesting that it's brought down la halacha. One should not stare at it because they make one blind. And we also find this concept by Berachos Kohanim not to stare at it because it makes one blind. And it's interesting because both are a sign of shalom. The Kohanim are giving a Berachos Kohanim, which is Hashem bless us with shalom, and the keshes is doing the same thing with bringing shalom. Okay, two more quick things. Rishon Arachai says, I've seen Bnei Aliyah. They're little Aniyu Bri Min Home. Me and my son are from them. Another two quick aras about Rishon Arachai, which are just so fascinating. Again, the Divrei Torah Aniyu Makam Achav Ashir Makam Acher. Rav Chizkiah B'Shem Rav Yomi brings down a story. Kachav Rishon Ben Yochai Omer. Rishon Ben Yochai Kain Hava. It sounds like this is what he would frequently say, but from the other midrashim, it was a one-time story. But that's just an interesting art in itself. Bika Bika, his Mali Din Rizav, Valley, fill up with golden dinarim, Vahesa Mismala, and it was filled. Now, what's the story? So it's found in actually Medrash Tanchuma and Shmos Rabbah. Shmos Rabbah 52.3, Medrash Tehillim as well. Basically, a student of Rishon Arachai traveled to Chutz La'aretz, became rich, and he came back, and the other students were very, very seemingly jealous of him, and Rishon Arachai saw that he was jealous. So he brought all of the students out to a valley, and he davened that it should become filled with golden coins, and it did. Now it's interesting. Again, this whole story is not even said in the Yerushalmi, which is the Agadat of the Medrash, but still, there's a correlation between the two. But it literally, it's a huge event. So this is what happens, and he told them, if you want gold and silver, take. So they were their eyes were bulging, and then he said, but just you should know that if you take now, you're taking your olam haba. And so, of course, none of them took. The Midrashim, there are girsos that say explicitly that no one took. So seemingly from that medrash, it was a one-time story and it was enough of a lesson. It could be that Kach Hava, Cain Hava, he would say, it's an interesting lesson. The Yerushalmi needs to be explained a little better, but it could be that maybe he would reference a story. So my Rabbi Usher Rubenstein Zatzal used to always quote this medrash, Parshas Pekude. He would bring it down because that's where the parsha, and he would just say that what's the pshat? The pshat is that when somebody says, I feel bad for that guy who learns, he doesn't have an olam hazeh. So he would have two rebuttals. One of them was, I feel bad for you because you don't have an olam haba, meaning that when a person uses up his zechuyos indulging in this world, so that takes away his olam haba. So that's what this story is saying. That he was saying, yeah, that guy got rich and he has all these things. That's great, but that's his olam haba that he's eating. But there's a famous thing for Shach and many other people that my Rabbi used to always quote as well. That he would say, the people that, or Shach would say, I feel bad for the people that support Torah. They have a great olam haba, but what about their olam hazeh? They don't get to learn. Their olam hazeh. They don't have Torah. So you have to have a perspective of how beautiful Torah is. That's where Rishon Rechai was telling his Talmidim. You want it, you could take it, but just know that you're eating your olam haba. It's not for the place right now to explain it, but basically, of course, there's a balance that, like Rabbi Strauss Salanter has said many times, famous for, that when a person works for Hashem, works for the boss, so obviously Hashem pays his expenses and what his needs are. So there's an element of using olam hazeh in a healthy way, and that's not menakev mizchu Yosef. And the last thing is Rishon Rechai, again, Cain Hava Rishon Rechai Omer. Now you might argue and say that he said this once, but that's not the simple meaning. But anyway, and in the Gemara in Sukkah, which has this Gemara, the Balvi's version is a little bit different, but he said, I saw B'nai Aliyah, and they're Muatim, and he says, if there's only two, me and my son are them. And I heard a speech once by Rosh Hashanah Zatzal, where he conjectured that Rashbi was such a Ben Aliyah, that if he would have said, if there's only one person, he would have said, it's me. Okay? Which reminds us of the famous Yerushalmi, well, we'll get into a different time, but the famous thing in Sota of Ika Anna, don't say that Anava is Batal because it's me, and you have to know your place. And Ruchaim Kaneski says that there was an Amora in the Yerushalmi whose name was Anna or similar. Anyway, not for now. But basically, I found a Yalkut Shmoni that quotes this medrash that he actually says if there's only one person, then it is me. What does that mean? It means that Rashbi's whole life was all about Berachos Lamed Hey Aleph, and that Machlokas Hanik B'Minag Derech Eretz versus Rishon Rechai's Shita, which was that a person should just learn Torah and his malachta is Nasazei De'acherim. And that's how the Ben Aliyah lives his life, where he says Hashem is going to take care of me, and that bitachon means that I have to be the greatest person that I could be. And that's Rashbi's greatness, and that's why he brought down so much great Torah, and that's why there was no Anan in his time, because a person like that's alive is inspiring the entire world with greatness. Have a great day.